I have a collection of malware. No, seriously, I have this big pile of malware samples that I've collected over the years and I keep adding to. And you probably have one too, or at the very least, you totally should. Especially if you're a cybersecurity practitioner, whether or not you're an analyst in a security operations center or a researcher or anyone just part of the field, malware is something crazy cool to get into. The question is though, how do you classify that malware? Whether you receive it, I don't know, through a feed, through your SOC or your SIEM, or you just have a big boatload of malware like I do. You can use one incredible tool and kind of a whole language to be able to match on malware samples based off a given criteria. Let's dive into YARA. Now, I know, look, I'm a little bit behind on this. Like everyone has a video out and content material on YARA, and everyone practically already knows what YARA is. And it's kind of simple, right? But in this video, I want to show you a little bit more that you can do with it and even hook up some things that maybe you just weren't familiar with before. So I am inside of my Windows 11 virtual machine. And look, you could be doing this in any sort of virtual machine you want. You could be in Flare for reverse engineering and analyzing malware, or you could even be on Linux, right? Using Remnux. I'm just using vanilla Windows so that we have this as sort of a demonstration. But look, I want us to get into YARA. Now, if you haven't seen it before, you can find it on GitHub under VirusTotal. It is the pattern matching Swiss knife. Is that supposed to say Swiss Army knife? Is that like missing something? I feel like that should be Swiss Army knife. But here's YARA in a nutshell. It's a tool aimed at, but not limited to, helping malware researchers to identify and classify malware samples. With YARA, you can basically create descriptions of malware families or anything you want based off of some context, like text or binary patterns, some signatures that you can use to fingerprint a binary or file. You create these rules consisting of strings and really just a Boolean expression that evaluates with logic whether or not this file or files that you're looking at match the given criteria. And seriously, this is used all over the place in the industry, all about diving into research, maybe some of that threat intelligence, triage, and analysis, just digging into malware. You can see some seriously big names in this list, and you should totally be using YARA if you aren't just as well. Now let me pull up the documentation because I am a big believer that the documentation, right, RTFM, is one of the best ways to get into some new technology or software that you're having fun with here. They give us this exact same example of the syntax, and we'll dive into that in just a moment, but the first things first, we should probably go ahead and get YARA. You can download it, you can compile and install it, whatever you want. They offer some instructions on Linux, but honestly, hey, I'm probably just going to keep it easy, showcasing this in the Windows sense. All we really need are the binaries, but you can hook this up with Cuckoo Sandbox or anything. If you're installing on Windows, it's pretty easy. They give you compiled binaries in both 32-bit and 64-bit flavors. We can just go ahead and download them from the releases back on the GitHub repository just where we were. I like to use this as a resource rather than installing through like Choco or Chocolatey or using what's baked into Flare just because I want the most latest and greatest thing. Hey, let's just pull down the most recent release for YARA 4.3.2 at the time of recording for 64-bit Windows. Now I've gone ahead and downloaded this and extracted it, and I've put it on my desktop. So inside of my Windows terminal, I'm gonna go ahead and move into the YARA directory where I have that stage. And I have a couple other files here to showcase, but YARA64.exe is really what we're gonna be working with. So let me /YARA64.exe, and it gives us a little bit of help here. Hey, we should have passed in some more arguments or parameters, right? We need the rules that we're actually gonna be working with, and then the file that we wanna analyze or put YARA up against. You can even give it a whole directory or a process ID, which is kind of wild. If you wanted to check out all of the other options, you can run this with help, and that'll show you all of the other parameters, configurable flags or switches, whatever you want to call it. But take a look. You can do so much here, like a fast scan or recursive. That's a pretty big one. We'll dive into that in just a second to cut through my entire pile of malware. But first, we should get smart on how to actually write YARA rules. And it's super duper easy, right? All you do is you supply a rule given a name that you get to choose. In this case, dummy is the option here. And just like you saw previously, you can define a condition that will determine whether or not, okay, the criteria you've outlined will match against the files that it's working with. There are a couple specific keywords that you can't use because, hey, YARA already has those defined, but this will actually help you determine, hey, am I looking at ASCII text? Or am I checking for the file size? Or am I up against base64 encoded data? Tons of fun stuff here, but ultimately we need to fill out the sections that define what we're going to be using to match the condition. Oftentimes, that's just using strings, but you could deal with different bytes if you wanted to just as well. You'll match those given a strings definition, maybe a variable name that you could define here, or again, hexadecimal values or bytes that you want to dig into. And then you say in your condition, hey, this value could match or that value could match. And then we'll say, hey, that file will classify as something that matches this rule. You can, of course, add comments just like it's a C-style source code here, and you can even use regular expressions inside of your strings, not just hexadecimal as we saw with the bytes above, or text-based plain text strings. I, for one, would really recommend you kind of scroll through this, take a peek, see all the things you can do, like different wildcards or NOP operations, like not, hey, trying to negate that criteria, or just, I don't know, the different logical operations you could use for all the things you might be able to set in your condition. We could, just for a simple dummy explanation, hey, just have a simple hello world binary. All it does is print hello world out on the screen, and then we could match against that string. Here, I'll compile this, Control-Shift-B, good enough. And now we could define a rule to match on our hello world string, right? Hey, if you're using Sublime Text as your text editor, it does actually have a package that you can install. If you hit Control-Shift-P to open up the command palette in Sublime Text, you can install a package with package control, and then you can search for YARA, and you should have, hey, an option for the YARA formatting and syntax highlighting within Sublime Text. Now, we can define the meta here. Let's say, hey, our description can simply be a simple proof of concept to show YARA rules. We'll define an author. In this section, this meta section is solely for your own use. So you could just set, hey, references to maybe some article or some malware write-up that dug into something that you want to showcase in here. You can basically make that to be whatever you want. Remember, really, we need the string section. And we can say just the hello world variable. We denote these with the $ and prefix here. And then we can say, hey, I just want to look for hello world. And that's it. Super simple, super easy, but you can make as many of these as you want. Could be anything. You could say, hey, I want it to be a PE header, make sure it is a binary so you can add in those hexadecimal bytes. What is it, like 5D4A or something? I might have that value wrong. But you can match and create as many of these as you want. And then for the condition, we'll just simply say, hey, I want it to match that string hello. Now, I know this is Dumbo and simple, but trust me, we're gonna get into some real awesome YARA rules and some real malware samples in just a sec. First, let's see this thing in action. Let me copy and paste where this binary was created here. And let's simply run our YARA64.exe binary with our hello world string.yara file, given the file extension we could give to our YARA rules, and then paste in the location of the file that we want to test this against. And then, hey, it just simply outputs, look, that hello string rule that you just specified, it will match against this binary. Now, obviously, if I put that against something else, like, what is it? Yeah, we can just do like the calculator, right? How's this look against calc.exe? I'll hit enter. There's no output because it doesn't match. There's no hello world string in there. Now that is like the most bare bone basics example, and obviously, hey, you could check out the documentation to see all the other incredible things you could do, like, I don't know, maybe tracking XOR modifications. Maybe you could use any of the other modifiers, and actually, you could dig into some specific modules, because this actually lets you do a ton of really cool stuff. Extensions to YARA's core functionality. Some modules like the PE module for portable executables or Windows binaries, and the Cuckoo module are officially distributed with YARA, but additional ones can be created by third parties or even yourself if you wanted to write your own modules. If you want to use one of the modules, you can just import it with the import statement, and this is actually super duper awesome because then you don't have to deal with some of the other stuff to determine, oh, is this a PE file like a Windows binary? Or even, look, we can go check out the modules section in the documentation. Take a look. They have ELF for Linux binaries, maybe some magic stuff for like different file signatures, different hashes, even math that you want to do, or .NET binaries, where you practically always see a whole lot of info-stealer malware and other nefarious shady stuff using .NET. I want to show you all of those things in action, and I want to get into using YARA to cut through my own giant pile of malware samples, but if I may, I'd love to tell you about something awesome, some really cool free event for Security Operations Center analysts, researchers, cybersecurity practitioners, anyone in our industry, something awesome being held by today's sponsor, Devo. SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. Security Operations Center analysts are always in the trenches. They fight on the front lines for cybersecurity defense, and oftentimes it's a thankless job. They are the unsung heroes of our industry. So to help celebrate these champions, Devo is hosting the 3rd annual SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. A completely free event, on October 18th, Devo established the SOC Analyst Appreciation Day to give some long overdue kudos to SOC analysts and encourage organizations to improve job satisfaction and mental well-being. Packed full with career-focused sessions like finding your role and niche, digging into automation, transitioning from public sector to private sector cybersecurity work, and so much more. I'll be speaking on the rapid response efforts during the 3CX supply chain compromise, and I'd love to see you there. If you're a current Security Operations Center analyst, or you're fascinated by the work and you want to become one, you should absolutely tune into the SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. It's completely free and a day dedicated to celebrate you and your great efforts. Sign up for the SOC Analyst Appreciation Day on October 18th with my link below in the video description, jh.live/SOC. Huge thanks to Devo for sponsoring this video. Now, I know, creating YARA rules is one thing. You can write your own, you can craft however many you might like, and it's really encouraged to do so when you see new threats or new malware out on the horizon. But the thing is, so many other people do so, and we have YARA rules in abundance. There are so many of them, and they're publicly available, and they're shared out online so that we can bolster the threat intelligence community and folks digging into trying to protect the cybersecurity industry. In fact, you can find like public YARA rules all over the place. Of course, GitHub has a project literally dedicated to sharing YARA rules. This is under the YARA rules user and all their rules. And if you actually go take a look, the thing is, this one is a little bit dated, but you could actually take a look at maybe some of the techniques or capabilities that different malware samples might have and how they kind of bundle that all up. I realize these are like 2 or 3 years, 4 years ago. So I don't think this one is actively maintained, or at least not that recently. But let's go take a look at some of the packers and maybe we can get an idea for, a packer.yar. How about that? Take a look. Here they're using that import PE module that we just learned about and the emotet packer rule, maybe with all these references for indicators of compromise or specific hashes for those samples, and even a date when this thing was created and some of the interesting strings that might be present in the PDB. Well, let's take a look at some of these anti-debugging or anti-VM techniques. Maybe we can see, oh yeah, here's one. Here we do another import PE to use that portable executable module, and we have some conditions here. Okay, maybe they're checking a couple of these bytes. Oh, and here's a rule for like the debugger check. Just like we did in one of the previous malware development videos, we actually would check, hey, is this malware running in a sandbox? Is it under the microscope? Is it being debugged like WinDebug or any other utility? And we just use that is debugger present, or maybe strings that could reference those, and check it out. A ton of these. But I will admit, I know this, hey, YARA rules repository is a little bit dated and doesn't look like it's being actively maintained. But I do know one that is always being updated, and that is Florian Roth and his signature base. This is the YARA signature and indicators of compromise database for things like Thor and Aurora, I think, are some of the cool things. Okay, Loki and Thor Light, and this is the awesome stuff that it helps make up. Look at this. He committed something like 4 days ago. This thing is always active, some stuff from last week. We can go take a look at the YARA directory. And these are all the advanced persistent threat, maybe activities they're tracking with APTs, blah, blah, blah. Oh, there's Baby Shark. Cool. This was some of the research that Palo Alto Networks at Unit 42 put out around that Kimsuki malware, Baby Shark, that was used for some advanced persistent threat, sort of espionage, digging into different think tanks. Yeah. Take a look at all the strings here that you could reference and some of the modifiers that you might be able to use. If anything, I hope these give you ideas for how you could craft and create your own YARA rules. Now, say you have a whole corpus of YARA rules and you have a whole corpus of malware. Maybe you can just kind of see, hey, what will be able to be categorized or classified in different things. So let's do it. Let's try to use one of those real YARA rules and just see, hey, what can it find and cut up across my giant pile of malware? Here's another simple rule, just trying to track down, hey, can we find any Discord webhooks in some of those samples, like a Discord token stealer or malware in that sense that, I don't know, is just trying to steal credentials or credit card information, anything that might be able to get out of Discord. Oftentimes, those are exfiltrated, pushed somewhere, but the Discord webhook might be how they do that. Here's the regular expression that they use with some of the modifiers, and of course, the casing and the condition they use, any of them would match, and the meta section here defined for the author, description, and references. Let's try and run YARA 64 with the Discord webhook YARA recursively. Let me add that tac R in there so we know to recursively look through all of my malware pile on my desktop. Let's see, what could it track down? Oh, cool. Already found some. Hey, we have a bounce game, a little Python script, super stupid here. What is this? System.py. All of the .nerf extensions are me just trying to make sure I don't accidentally double click on it. Crystal Islands. Oh, Midlight Chord, Monster Casa, Synapses, Discord Stealer. Okay, that one's kind of pretty on the nose. But see, it found it inside of the executable file and even stuff that isn't just a stupid Python script. I think that is pretty slick. But hey, let me show you one of the cool functionality that you can use YARA for is trying to, I don't know, keep tabs on current real-world threats. This is an article from Bleeping Computer where they say recently, Lazarus hackers were deploying fake VMware, PyPy, or some of the Python installer packages inside of VM Connect attacks. Here's their spooky, scary picture, right? All the cover photos that Bleeping Computer likes to use. Look, North Korea's state-sponsored hackers have uploaded malicious packages to the PyPy or the Python package index repository, camouflaging them as VMware vSphere connector modules, just named vConnector or whatever. Now, this was removed from the repositories, but it actually had 237 downloads. So some folks fell for this. Looks like Reversing Labs got to dig into this, and they found that some other packages like Table Editor or Request Plus and Request Pro, oh, that had 736 for Table Editor, and I've got my hands on it. They were actually able to see, hey, this was going to stage some other malware that Lazarus might fire off. Take a look. They would use some specific syntax, the PyPath string or PyExec string that just looks out of the ordinary, and that is something that you could hone in on and key off of with YARA. So here's a super recent, current, and all that flashy jazz, one of these YARA rules that we might be able to track down some of those unique strings and identify and classify any malware samples or anything that just kind of floats through our seam and sock. Hey, track it down. Tell me that that can be a malicious malware sample. I don't want to drag you through all that syntax because I think, hey, look, this is pretty simple. It's just glorified regex, but at scale and set up with whatever conditions we want to be able to make this match that known malware. Let's run YARA 64 Lazarus on the table editor directory that I have here. And I was able to actually go take a look. Here, I'll go move in that YARA directory. The table editor 3.0, this was all of the files included in that package. And you can see in the source files some of the malicious Python script that they were referencing here. Here, let's make that tac R for recursive. And hey, there it already found it. Looks like that base table.py script was going to end up staging some of those spooky strings. Now, I know that's all fine and good, but we're just running YARA from the command line. Like, oh, sure, it's cool to see the interactive real-time reaction responses here, but we probably want that hooked up to like our own SIEM or the SIM solution, whatever you want to call it. Your security operations center probably wants that sort of built into its pipeline and workflow for ingesting new data, right? With that said, I would totally recommend, hey, take a look at YARA Python. It's a Python interface to be able to use YARA, and it's pretty simple and pretty easy. You can just use YARA from your Python scripts, and it's a simple library where you just, hey, work with the rule that you can specify, match it on whatever you want, and then see what it returns. Super duper easy to install. It's just through pip here. And maybe if you're building out some of your own workflows or you're trying to have something custom here for any stuff that you're doing for security research, this is an awesome thing and you should totally dig into YARA Python. And another awesome thing you can do with YARA, especially if you're working with some of these giant, large, well-known like data sets or databases of malware samples like VirusTotal or Reversing Labs or plenty of others, you can actually do like a retro hunt. And in case you're looking back into the past of that whole corpus of malware samples, and you could actually use your YARA rules to look through and find and hunt down malware. Retro Hunt from VirusTotal allows you to scan the files sent to VirusTotal in the past 12 months with your YARA rules. In fact, hey, I think you can maybe use some of the paid subscription tiers, and then you can do a little bit more. It might be tough to do with VirusTotal. I think that needs some coin behind it, but there are tons of others like UnpackMe. UnpackMe does this very same thing where you can use a YARA search. I think in their live feed of those samples, you might be able to kind of see, hey, maybe what tags or YARA rules match here. And if you actually take a look, their public, like totally free and accessible opportunity gives Okay, yeah, it is free. No, I got worried about that $10 a month thing. No, the 10 YARA hunt searches, you can look back 12 weeks and actually dig into recent submissions to Unpack Me. And one really cool one is Malware Bazaar. Now, the Malware Bazaar is a project that allows sharing malware samples with the InfoSec community, antivirus vendors, and other threat intel providers. But if you go take a look at their hunting section, you should totally set up some notifications for yourself so that anytime, hey, maybe a YAR rule could match any sort of Discord webhook, we could go ahead and send an email to ourselves. Here, let's save our new hunting rule. There we go. And we could go ahead and validate that. I've gone into my email inbox to go ahead and verify this, and we could actually go take a look. Hey, if you want to go see any of the hunting rules that you can create, then that's awesome. You'll see these all and they'll get notified, and then you can stage and work with whatever you want. Malware Bazaar is one that is free, and that is a great way for you to actually play with it. Here's the last bit. I just want to show you 2 more resources that are awesome, and I hope you can get some insight out of them. There is an awesome list available on GitHub for YARA. There's Awesome YARA, put together by Inquest, and that is just a great list of other YARA resources, tools, and things inside that scene. This is inspired by Awesome Python and Awesome PHP, all the other incredible awesome lists. Check it out. They have so much here in their content section, and even a legend as to what is actively maintained or just really, really cool, or maybe new, maybe some awesome, incredible things. 100 Days of YARA and a bunch of these great things. Look at this. Hey, you can get this hooked up with Cape, collection of rules put together by some incredible people. D. or Stevens, I see in the mix. Here's stuff from Elastic. Here's stuff from ESET, FireEye, of course, Florian Roth. This list of rules is massive. Like, so many folks are putting out incredible YARA rules, and it could really, really help. I don't know, you're building up your catalog, your library, your whole collection of YARA rules that could help you kind of hunt down and identify malware. But the tools section is some of the coolest stuff to me, because this is how you can kind of integrate it with stuff that you might already be working with in your own technology stack. Look, here's something with Microsoft Exchange. You could use YARA to detect malware in those emails. Or they have Go YARA just as well, so if you want to work with this in Golang. And of course, hey, maybe you're digging into some disassemblers or other debuggers, right? You got IDA Pro, Cutter, Binary Ninja plugin that easily allows you to create YARA rules when you're working with a binary. PowerShell scripts invoke YARA on remote machines? That's so cool. Malcat, of course. Man, I gotta play with Malcat more. It looks so awesome. MISP, MITRE. Oh, Sysmon, yeah. Look at this, Microsoft WinDebug extension that includes the ability to use YARA rules to hunt processes in memory. You should totally go take a look at Awesome YARA. They have so much cool stuff, and maybe you'll find something really, really interesting. It'd be worthwhile for you to play with. And okay, here's my last one, I promise. Look, credit where credit is due. This is from Adam over at Hexacorn, right? You can find him online. You'll see him on Twitter all the time. And he put out some fantastic thought leadership, if I may say, because it's getting into writing better YARA rules. And it's just sort of like the philosophy. I know sometimes when you're putting this together, you might have a different ideas or schools of thought on how you use YARA. Like your pattern matching, right? You could cast a wide net and try to have it collect and maybe fire on as many things as possible so that you could go down and narrow, hey, see what's really important. Or you could make it as sharp and as pointed as possible to only absolutely match the stuff that you know is something that you're looking for. And Adam acknowledges, look, hey, if you've got this large, giant, and unorganized YARA rule set that a lot of us tend to collect and hoard just from all those other random places on the internet, well, how can we clean that up? And I don't mean to drag you through this, but I think it's kind of interesting because you can see some perspective on, look, these are things that you should probably try to match on with YARA and things that you shouldn't try to match on. Even old school stuff, maybe things that just aren't pertinent to today's day and age. Maybe dependencies, hey, third-party stuff that's rules relying on other rules. Hey, that high fidelity, really pointed and narrow filter here, but knowing that, sometimes it's worthwhile to have a kind of wide scope here. But you need to get into the weeds on that one. It's hard to kind of balance that. So look, maybe you have YARA rules that are for you. Comments as often as you can. Hey, maybe printable versions of hex strings or bytes if they were chosen. And avoid a lot of these stupid strings, right? Hey, stuff that you just kind of see all the time. Kernel 32, NTDLL, user 32, they're probably just everywhere, right? It's pretty easy. Hey, then you can kind of zoom in on one sort of file type or like a content for a binary matching a certain sort of file, that file type. The thing is, all of those will match like tons of clean files, things that you aren't looking for. And sure, sometimes you need to use them to determine the file type and that file format, just as we mentioned, but that could probably scan and dig through a lot of clean files that's just wasting a lot of that processing power. Same thing with regex. Like if you're using wildcards, look, maybe it's a little bit easier to sharpen that sword a bit. Again, I don't mean to drag you through this article, but I think Adam has a whole lot of really cool points here. And if you are writing YARA rules, or if you just know you're consuming a lot of YARA rules for your own SOC, SIEM, security solution, whatever, maybe it's worthwhile to take another look and try to clean some stuff up if you can. And that's the gist. Like, review your own rules. And hey, try some of those retro hunts or anything that we just mentioned a moment ago. Hey, look, I hope you don't mind that crash course in YARA or all the things that you can do with YARA, because ultimately I think the syntax is pretty simple. And you can kind of look up what you're looking for in the documentation, see how you might be able to do it. And there are tons and tons of examples already out there. Hey, just get a feel for maybe writing your own, playing with them, and seeing how they all come together. Use YARA Python, use retro hunts or Malware Bazaar, Unpack Me, and just, I don't know, try and embrace YARA for a little bit. You can do so much cool stuff with it and really be a contributing member of this whole threat intelligence, hey, analyst world, SOC Operations Center, anything. All right, I'm rambling. I gotta be done. This is a long video. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.